So the objective is to design something that looks like this. You can do whatever you want, but just we want something similar to this thing. But the main thing is that we would like you to be able to add controls to a JFrame and then manage an event, which is when we click on this button, something should happen. So let's start. I'm going to create this new project, whatever I call it, calculator, let's say. And well, I'm going to rename this. Let's rename this Control R and then make program. This I generally would like to make the main separate from the others, just to avoid this confusion about having many things in one place. So I'm just having the main, I'll put it here, and I'm going to use it later on. And I'm going to create this new calculator, this new class. It's going to be extending JFrame, and I'm just going to be doing the, well, later on I'm going to do it so I can see the effect of that. So what I need to do, I need to have like 3 labels, 3 text fields, and 1 button, right? So I need to declare them. So I'm going to declare the labels, label, and they call it label 1, for example, and then label 2 and label 3. There are different ways how to do this. Sorry? Well, we can make it private. Yeah. And another one, okay, private J text field. Text field here. You see, every time I use this control space, it adds the imports for me, so it's more convenient. So in the text fields, I'm going to use TF number 1, TF and number 2, and TF results, for example. And the last thing is J button. TF, not TF, it's a button, so button, I'm going to name it add, for example. So I'm done with these controls, so I'm having like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and this is the 7th, so we have 3, 3, and 6 and 7, so this is the one. I just wanted to show you something. Instead of having all this, if you don't want to type them, if you type in them yourself, don't use this control space, you can just use this star. It's going to bring actually not only these J label, J text field, and J button, anything that is within that package is going to be included anyways. So it's not the best way to do, because now you just include whatever you need. You don't include more than what you need. So this is better than the star. But if you use the star, it still works. I mean, I just want to clarify that. So now that I have my different instance variables that are going to be displayed, I need to work on the constructor of the class. So public calculator, and then what am I going to be doing? I need to instantiate all these things. I need to prepare each one of those in this constructor. So the label 1, I need to instantiate it first. So new J label 1, J label, and then you can see that I have many options using picture or text and alignment, whatever, and text and pictures and alignment. I'm just going to use the simplest one. We just use the text. Okay, so in the text of the label 1, I'm going to show number 1. Doing a lot of copy and paste, because the same thing happens to label 2 and label 3, except that label 2 is number 2 and label 3 is results, something like that. Let's put like a column or something, whatever. Up to now, everything is okay. I'm just instantiating all these ones. So I'm doing the same thing again for the text field. Number 1 equal new text field, and okay, here it is. And then you can see also I have in different constructors to use. I'm just going to be using the one that specifies the number of columns. You know, this means what's the size of your text field. You want how many columns to show up. We can use 5, 10, whatever. That's 10. Okay. So same thing again. Another copy and paste, and we have number 2 and results. All of them same size. If I want different sizes, whatever, we can just play with it later. Now the last one is the button add equal new JButton. Same thing. I have a lot of different things. I can just also add an action right away. Let's take this for later, maybe, and work with text. So just text and icon. Let's just now just have the text, and we would like to add. Just show add. So this is going just to show this add over here. So we're done with this initialization of these instance variables. So now I need to put them in the frame, in the JFrame, which is in my calculator, which extends the JFrame. So what should I do? Now I'm going to be working on the JFrame itself. So on the JFrame, I would like to set the size, for example. So set the size of the JFrame to, I don't know, 250. I don't know, let's try with that, and then later on I can change it. Other things that I would like to play with is the behavior when I click on this close button. When I click on this close button, sorry? You didn't put just close it. Yeah, it closed, but it doesn't stop the program. Yeah. So so like now, for example, if I don't want to run, I don't want to spoil the. Well, let's run. Okay. What if I run? What should I see? Nothing. But I have buttons and things. But I didn't. First of all, I didn't put it at visible. The whole frame is not visible. The second thing is that even if it was visible. No, I will run. It will see. You're going to see nothing is going to happen. There's no frame. It's not even that. Actually, there's no frame. We didn't prepare the frame. We didn't add these controls to the frame. And still, more importantly, we never called this constructor of the this class in the main. We're still having nothing in the main, so nothing is going to happen at all. But if let's say we made something happen, but anyways, we could. Now we will not see anything because we have not added these controls to the JFrame. We just prepared them. They are somewhere, but they're not attached to the JFrame. So that's the idea. Okay. So this being said, let's just work with this set default close operation. And what should I do? If you remember, JFrame. Dot, and then there are different options. The exit on close is the one that we'd like to do. So when I close and I click on the X button, it will close. Okay, what other things should I be using? Visible right away but before putting it visible, we need to first maybe put these inside of the frame. We have not done that yet. These labels that we prepared, they're ready, but they're not inside the frame. They're just inside in these variables. They're not going to be shown. So I need to put them inside the frame. But in order for me to put them inside of the frame, I need to do something like this. Get the container. Right? It just shows me this. Okay, see this get container. I just would like to get the content pane. Oh, this is what I meant. So this is this is get content pane of this JFrame is going to give me a container. That's why I didn't want to show it to me. I wanted to use it. So the container. Okay, it doesn't want to help me. All right, now I have it. Why I'm using the control space? Why? Because if I use control space, I press the enter. It's going to use the import for me. If I don't use the control space and type it myself, I will have to, add these imports myself. So that's why I was looking for the control space to show me the container, but no, we forced it. So let's say this is the container panel, and this container panel, we are going to be getting the container panel from the JFrame, the content pane, and then inside this one we're going to be adding the different components. So what are we adding first is the label 1. The order is important, so that's why I'm going to be adding them in a specific order, and then I'm going to be adding this one. So this is going to be our first thing, and then again copy and paste, because we're going to be this time label 2 and number 2. And the last one is the last pair, let's say label 3 and text field results, and the button. So now I've prepared them all. Did I miss anything? There might be something that I might need, but let's see. Now all these, I have these yellow warnings that tells me, well, they can be made final. Well, I'm not looking at this for now. But this is what is going to happen.
What about the title?
Oh, okay, the title, I did not use that. That's true. Let's just work with the title. So we said that in the title we need to put something like calculator, for example. Yeah. And we're ready, right?
Should we write layout?
Should we specify the layout? Well, that's another question I'd like to show. I mean, if we don't specify it, what would be the result? And if we do, what would be the result? So let's just do that later, inshallah. But thanks for reminding me. Actually, I was trying to hide it from you, but you got it. So anyways, let's do something. Now there are different ways on how to use this frame, how to make it visible. Either I make it visible from here, inside the constructor. So the constructor will call the set visible, will make himself visible. Or I just don't make it visible here. I'm going to make it visible when I call it, the instance from, like now I'm going to be from the main, from the calculator, let's call it calc equal new calculator. And then from here now I can just call this set visible. I'm just trying to show you some other ways, because in the examples you have the set visible inside of the constructor, right? So there's another way that I can do it, just I can do it this way without. Now in the previous way, when I was using the set visible inside the constructor, I just created an instance. I did not save it somewhere, if you remember.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
remember? You don't. Okay. So anyway, either I can do it this way. Let's run it and see it working. There's something that went. Anyways, we'll fix this for now. There's something else. Either I do it this way, or this set visible, I'm going to do it inside of this constructor, and then I'm going just to create this and dismiss the instance. I don't need it to be saved somewhere. Just do it somewhere here. Set visible. Okay, now this is what I showed you last time. You can have it like this. It shows, but it's visible. But now we'll handle this problem of why don't we see the others, because there's some things that we need to, the layout that we've been talking about. So, but things are that either I can make it visible here, which makes everybody who's going to instantiate my class is going to make it visible by default, or, which is better, if you ask me, I prefer this way, where you just, if you want to make it visible, then you make it visible, because maybe you want to do some other changes. You might want to change some other things or whatever, set the title to something else, and then you can make it visible if you want. So it gives you more flexibility anyways. So now let's fix the problem with this big, only the button add is shown, because actually we didn't set the layouts. That we had to specify that in the layout we need to have it as a flow layout. What this flow layout means, it means I'm going to be putting controls, and as I add them, put them one next to the other. that's what as a flow. And then if it doesn't have more space, then go back to the line and add, keep showing the others. So that's the set layout and new flow layout, what that does. There are other types of layouts. I don't want to get into those details for now. Inshallah, next week, where we're going to be working more with the more advanced designs of graphical user interfaces, we're going to be working towards different kinds of layouts. But just for now, just know that if I just put this line and I run it, now I can see them, you see? And I see them in like as if they're in one line, except that depending on the size of your application, it might show up a little bit either in a weird way, or maybe something that looks maybe better than what you expected. But then if I want to see it this way, I need to set the right size or for my window. So this 250, for example, for the width is a bit too much. Let's make it 200 and see if it's going to be enough, for example, to show everything and in the right way. Okay, it looks good. So for example, now it just looks good, but still if you want to resize it, it will not look that good anyway. But anyways, it will look the way it is right now. So we don't care for this for now. Later on, we're going to be working more about how to manage these more advanced graphical user interfaces. But still now, if I put anything or whatever here, and I click on this add, nothing is there because we did not define any action that should be taken. So now how to define an action? There are different ways. I can either implement it or create another class that is going to be implementing it, or maybe creating a class inside of this class that is going to be implementing it. So we're going to see all these, but let's start by the things that you already know. And the simplest one is this implements, because it puts everything here. We don't need to have other classes or everything. Everything is in one place. But I'm going to be we are going to be needing something else if we'd like to have more events to manage, and if we'd like to manage them in a maybe a more organized way. So now let's implement. What should we implement again? Action listener. Thank you. So action and then listener, and now it's going to show me this in red because we need to implement all abstract methods. Well, luckily we have only one, alhamdulillah, so we just need to implement this one. So let's implement it. Now what should we do? When we click on the button, what do we want to have? The calculation, right? So, but we need to not forget one thing. I mean, these are texts. So I'm going to need to take this as a text and take this from text here and then add it here as a number. First of all, without just looking, thinking, making this distinction, this is a text or what is a text, we don't care. Let's just take whatever it's in text field, this text field number 1, and add it to text field number 2 and put it inside of this text field result. So let's do something really simple without thinking. Let's say the text field results. We're going to set the text and change the text to make it something. What is going to be inside? I'm going to be getting the text field number 1 and get the text from it. And I'm going to add to the text field number 2 and get the text. Fine, this is something simplistic. We just want to see something. Is it going to be working? Is it enough? No. We're going to see why. But let's see something. So first of all, is that enough? That's all what we need?
Do we need to put the editable for the result?
Well, there's other things we can do that. Yes, we can improve that. We should disable the result, for example, to not be able to change it. But I don't want to get into these details for now. Yeah. But if I run, will it work? No?
It will be written as string.
Okay. Well, nothing will happen. Because we forgot one very important step. Very small, but very important. To show what? We set the text. We set the text in the result. So it's normally, whatever I put here is going to show. But this line is never run. This line is never executed. Why? Because we did not tell the computer to, when I click on the button, this is going to be executed. Did we link this action to the button? No. We just define this is the action to do when there's an action. But who is going to fire this event? Who are we listening to? We didn't say. We need to add it to the button. Actually, this is part of what is inside of the button. So this button over here, we need to add the action listener, and in this case, in this class, because the action performed is within this class. So you got the point. It's important to link the action to the object, the component that is going to be firing those events. So now if I run and I put something, let's say 1 and 2, and add, it shows me 12. Well, actually it shows me text 1 plus text 2. You concatenate two texts. This is what it gives you, right? Because we add two texts. This is what we did. We added the text that is from the text field 1 to the text that is from the text field 2, and gives you this result, which is completely normal. Whatever I type here, and whatever I type, let's put whatever here, and then if I add, it's going to add them together, because this is what we did. Now we don't want to do this with text. We want these to be like some additions of numbers. So what we need to do, just a small thing now, we need to convert this to a number, and convert this to a number, and then do the calculation, and then display the results. So how to do that? Well, then we need to take some steps. Depending on what you would like to do, is it like a calculator that works with only integers or doubles? I prefer to make it double, and say number 1 and number 2. So I'm going to, just to make it clear, define two variables, and I'm going to be putting the converted text into the values. So now instead of using this right there, how can I convert this to a double? Well, in order for me to convert something to a double, I just need to do double dot. I think you did know that. So that parse, maybe new, parse double. So notice the double is capital D. This is not like the double, which is the primitive data type. This is a class data type, because double with capital D is a class. With lowercase d, like double here, it's a primitive data type. It's not a class. If I do the dots, it's not a class. Anyway. But this one, the double with the capital D, it's a class. And you can have, as you can see, many static methods and variables. And these are called, actually, they have a specific name. They have called wrapper classes. Like this, they're classes that are wrapped around the double. We have the same thing, integer, we have float, all the different classes of the different primitive data types. They have class associated, class wrappers, as they call them. Wrapper with, like this, wrapper class. This is how they spell it. So now if I use this parse, if I want to convert to a double, I use it this way. I want to convert to an integer, I use it this integer.parse int and so on. Whatever data type you want to change it to, either change it to from int to a string or from string to int, you can use these wrapper classes to help you with that. So we're going to be using double.parse double, which means it takes a string and it returns. This takes a string and it takes a string as an argument and returns a double. And that's what we want to understand. But notice it does something. This is something that we will understand later when we're going to see the exception handling. This throw number format exception. Why we have that? Maybe because we need to be careful. If we type letters and we try to convert a letter to a number, it's impossible. How can you convert ABC to a double? So this is going to raise some exceptions, but we're not going to be dealing with those cases for now. We just avoid. We assume that we're only going to type in the text fields only numbers. So this is going to, once we find out that how to do it for the first one, we are going to be just copying and pasting. And now I can do something like this: number 1 plus number 2, which is now I'm adding two doubles. The only problem with this now is that this is a number, and set text doesn't accept numbers, it accepts string. So there's an easy maybe catch that you can do, an easy fix. Do something like this, for example. Now what am I doing? I'm doing this addition, which is a number plus a number, and then this number added to a text, now it becomes a text. And this text, now I'm displaying it. But I don't like this kind of fixes. I'll prefer a better way. And a better way to do this is to use the double dot toString. There's a method called toString. You give it the number, and it's going to convert this to a string, and then you can put that string into the set text of the results, which is more elegant. It shows that you know what you're doing. Whatever. Anyways, I think so. Now does it show? Okay, so it's still working. So now, inshallah, if I click on this run and put some 12 plus 5 and click on the add, alhamdulillah, it's working as expected. Yes. Well, we just finished what was the requirement. The clear button, I'm coming to it, don't worry. And let's do something now. If we'd like to add another button, and how to manage the other button is something. Let's say we'd like to have another button, as we said, like we'd like to have something called clear. Okay, maybe just like do it this way. Button clear. Okay, so this needs to be instantiated first. Clear. And it needs to be added somewhere. So it needs to be added also here. So where do I want it, before, after? Well, that's your choice. Let's make it like after here, for example. Now if I run this, I have now two buttons. This one that's still working, the clear, but the clear doesn't work. Okay, now my question is, I would like to add an action to this clear. If I click on it, something should happen. What should happen? I would like just to make this empty, for example, of them. Or maybe put zeros, whatever, it's up to me. So how to do that? I need to add an action listener, like what I did with this. No, not a setter, just the action listener to this. Like the same thing with this button, clear, dot add action listener, but can I have implement another action listener? Am I going to be implementing many of them? Can I have like many of these actions? Well, the way I programmed it this way, this class has only one action listener. So I have to share these two things now. Either I click on this one or the other one, they're going to be doing the same thing. So now this implementation is not the best way for me to do that. There's a way to fix it. There's a case when you can put a if this is class that is called is this one, then do this. And I don't want to get you to put you into some fixes that are not really clean. I mean, to my point of view, which is not the best way to do. I'm going to show another way how to do it. Well, you remember we had two options on how to do the listeners. Either we made it as like a different class, or we made it like we did this way, and we implemented here. And now we are forced to use the class, because this one is not helping, because we would like to have different listeners. So we're going to be defining different listeners. So you remember with the class, we just did something like this, create a class. We'll call it, like, for example, let's say add listener. That is going just to listener. So and then in this add listener, this one is going to be implementing the action listener. Okay, and this one in the code that I have, instead of having it here, I'm going to take away this code and put it here in this add listener, which is the same thing. I'm not changing the behavior, but something is going to be a problem now. If I put in a separate class, I cannot access the instance variables. So what's the fix? Extend. Maybe, yes, we can make it, it will extend, like, for example, the calculator. Or there's an even better option, an inner class. You remember a class inside of a class? Sometimes you were thinking, why do we might need a class inside of a class? Well, now this is a good point where we might have a class inside of a class. Because this class is only going to be serving the purpose of having this action performed with this add listener that is going to be only used inside this class. So it makes sense. And then I don't need to have this one, so I'm going to discard this and I'm just going to delete it. I don't need it anyway. You understand the logic behind that? We had a problem. We wanted to fix the problem by creating a separate class. By creating a separate class, we have another problem because these instance variables are not accessible anymore. So we put it back inside of the class itself. So we have now an inner class with only the job of only implementing the action listener for this add listener. And this gives us the flexibility that we want, because now what we can do, instead of having this for the add, I'm just going to be doing some new add listener, and that's it. So this is going to have the new add listener. I'm going to add another one for example, new clear listener, let's say. But let's create it first. I'm going to be, for example, doing the same thing now for the clear listener. And for the clear listener that implements, again, this action listener. And then what I'm going to be doing here, just something very simple, which is set text. All of these, I'm going to put them like empty text like this. Copy and paste. Now NB1. And maybe copy everything. NB2. All of them are going to be put in empty text, which in fact is going just to empty them. And now this clear listener is going to be the listener that is going to be here. Is it going to work? Are we missing something? Let's try. 1, 2, 3. Well, let's make it something easier. +2. We add. Okay. We clear. Okay. So this is how we can have many of these different actions, because if you have a form, a JFrame, when you have many different buttons, if one different events, then this is one way to deal with that. Okay, just check his question. Yes, what's your question?
Can you again use another button, like clean?
You want another button?
No, I want again, because I want to understand.
Okay, what we wanted is that initially we wanted to have we were implementing here, right? We were implementing. Let me just maybe go back and get back. Maybe, yeah. This is how it was before. And let me go back again. It was like this, right? And it was implementing the action listener. When we added the other button, we wanted to know what shall we put here as an action listener. We found out that we have only one action performed here because we're implementing the interface and we have only one method. So how can this method be used for both buttons? There's a way, but I don't want to show it to you. But it's possible, complicated a little bit. You have to put some ifs, and then it makes the action listener not really clean. Not really organized, because you have a lot of different things in one place. I don't like it. So that's one way, but we wanted to see another way. Another way is to see, like the other way that we used. If you remember, we've used some maybe in the chapter this one probably. I don't remember. Maybe this one. Yes, in this first swing demo, you'll see another way on how to use these events and how to catch them by using this kind of things. This another class. So where this is another class that implements the action listener, and we put the action listener in another class. And we did the same thing. We wanted to do the same thing. So we created another class, and then we copied and pasted this. The problem that we faced is that these are the TF-NB1 is a private member of calculator. So if we move to another class, it's not going to be accessible from the other class. That's what the private does, right? So now we have this problem. We could have fixed it by making it protected, for example. So because they're on the same package or they inherit, they can still work, or make it public. But I wanted to show you this in our classes anyways. So we said, okay, let's fix it with a way, which is another way. Now, what we did, we created a class inside of the class. So if you look here on the navigator, you see this is the class calculator that has a constructor, the different instance variables, and also it has another class inside of it. This class is just implementing an action listener, and then if you click on it, there's only the action performed, the same thing, only the action performed. So I created different classes. Each class is going to handle the events of a specific button. So then this add listener and this clear listeners, if you look at the add listener, is going to be added to the button add. And this clear listener is going to be added to the button clear. So I put the code for the action, and who is going to be doing what is specified by these links. Okay? Yes, Ryan.
Yeah. You want to just calculate it.
What do you mean by calculate, then calculate again?
Run the program.
I'm running it, okay?
Okay. Calculate.
Okay. Add.
Then calculate again.
Add.
No. I mean, add another numbers.
Okay. Add. It will work. I mean, it's not just one event at a time. It's working. It keeps working until. Yeah. But what happens? I just wanted to show you something. Remember with the exceptions, what happens if I put something like this? Nothing, right? But actually, there's something. There's a lot of things that are showing up in here. There's some exceptions, except that I don't see them. They don't show up. But there are a lot of exceptions that are ran, because every time I click on the button when there was an exception, it was an exception that was raised. But we're going to be dealing with that inshallah later on. Any questions regarding this? If you don't have questions, because guess what? We have add. What's coming up next? Subtract, multiply. You're going to be having to add a lot of different listeners to different buttons. So that's what you're going to be doing right now, if you don't have any other questions. Yes?
Can we replace the icons?
Yes, we can, but I don't want to get into that detail. Yeah, you can play with a lot of different stuff. Yeah. But this is something, inshallah, maybe after next week, we might be working on things like that. Yeah. Okay?